Good evening. I want to talk about the coronavirus phenomenon, as I'm calling it, which is the dynamic of, first of all, um, coronavirus and fear. Both of those make up the phenomenon as far as I'm concerned, because it's got to do with this biological virus that's real in the physical world. And then there's this whole interior world of how we construct meaning of, react to, respond to, become fearful of, and then spread the contagion of fear into panic. Obviously, we're seeing all the signs of that as anyone who's watching media, which I highly recommend you limit your diet of these days anyway. But we're seeing the dynamic, which is real. So all of that leads to me to want to do a short video just to say I've had this idea of what to do, right? Not what to do in terms of all the physical, medical aspects of caring for yourself under these conditions and under the potential risk that is real, but I'm more interested in what to do in terms of making meaning in an interior way. So that's the other side of my fearology work, is to particularly think about how do we actually learn and teach ourselves. So the practical quick example of turning this whole episode, this whole event, whatever its course and cycle may be as it rises and falls, like all the major viruses have when humanity's had to deal with them in certain ways, is what is it that we can do in a learning framework? So very briefly, had this idea, okay, okay, let's just take Italy, for example. It's kind of a case study of a country literally shutting itself down, locking down, as they call it, going into this emergency kind of time, framing and putting and isolating people to not mix in public places and all the other aspects that go with that. And I know there's resistance to that lockdown too within that country. But if it's like a case example, and it could be a family that does a lockdown, it could be a school system that does a lockdown or a shutdown, and it could be an old folks home, which I've heard about tonight. They lock down a whole floor, or an emergency department in a hospital, right? It could be all kinds of things. Let's turn the heater off. The point being is that all these lockdowns give people a break. Yeah, it's not all horrible, not all a tragedy. I'm not in favor of lockdowns just at the drop of the hat, you know, boom, boom, lockdown, shut down, and sort of what it creates as a kind of automatic panic mode that I think they're trying to actually avoid panic, but they actually create panic in setting these kinds of policies and implementing them. But it's a break. It's a break from your normal world. So let's just take all these people in Italy as one example. So what are they going to do in the lockdown? They're going to still maybe do a little bit of online education, or they'll do some, minimal other kinds of social things. But basically, you're in isolation and you're in a place where you're outside of the regular plugged-in world. And thank goodness our carbon footprint is less and less and less when we actually do that. Thank you, coronavirus, for that. Less and less carbon waste, excess, and the planet will actually benefit from that. But the other thing the corona is teaching us is to sit down, be still, slow down under this lockdown condition, and not sit there and, fear and panic or boredom or anxiety, but actually to learn. So I suggest, here's my fantasy example, the whole country of Italy, its education department, all their top leaders get together and they put together and plan a curriculum. And they could call on groups, and they could call on people like me, fearologists or whoever, to get some expertise as well. Let's do a full fear education program. And it's two parts while we're in this corona phenomenon, fear virus condition, is that we're going to study the coronavirus itself and its dynamics, its ecology. So that's part of the learning. Everybody gets to do that in their home while they're under this lockdown condition. They got lots more time to do it. Have some fun learning, teaching. The second part, the major part, 80 to 90% part of the curriculum that I'm calling for under this lockdown condition is the fear study. So you put those together and we actually have what becomes more the real problem is not the virus itself that's really causing the most damage. It's the fear of the virus, of getting it, the fear of getting it, and then wondering what the symptoms will be and what the condition will be and will I die. So what a perfect place. Thank you, Corona, for creating a space for us improving as humanity our fear education, which I unfortunately have to say, as a fearologist, as someone who studied this for 30 plus years, fear is ahead of us. Our education on fear is way, way behind the times. And this, to me, pretty much as I watch the corona phenomenon, just reinforces again another example of how far behind we are in how we manage fear in a healthy and good transformative way. So that's my quick little prescription for tonight. I'll probably do another video maybe later, and if people comment or want to really know more about this, but I think you get the basic idea. Thank you, Corona. And for all those suffering with coronavirus, that's something to be compassionate for and about. And we're all in the same boat. The education, the learning is what we can do in a really constructive way and very positive way that will, the next time another virus comes along like this, and there will be, we can actually learn quite different ways to respond, and that will not breed so much fear and panic and crazy things that are going on right now. As you probably know, it also quite damaging to a lot of our social infrastructure and our communities, if not our nations. Okay, thanks for listening.